Welcome back to this set of introductory SketchUp videos. Now we're going to go through some of the export functions, how to export images and line drawings that you can then use in other applications to illustrate your proposals. Now I'm just going to go back to the layers and I will turn off the location snapshot. Now you can notice through here that the shadows are still being projected, and even though the terrain is turned, the snapshot and terrain is turned off, the data that sort of drives the solar analysis is still accurate. So what I'm going to do is show you how you can sort of export some very simple images and so on. And it's really quite easy. It's similar to the animation export. It's in that File pull-down menu, and we're going to go Export a 2D graphic. And if I select that, it'll give me a number of options in this pull-down menu through here. So what I'm going to do is, so these here, the PNG, TIFF, JPEG, bitmap. These are all image formats, and the more ubiquitous and easy to use is the JPEG, which does have a little bit of kind of optimization that potentially can reduce the file size. Now you can control the resolution of the image through the Options tab through there. The default is to go to the view size, but if you dump more pixels into there, say we put 3600, it's putting a more dense mat of pixels over that image. We dial up to sort of better quality so that it goes over the image a number of times to refine it. And we need to, again, usually always anti-alias it so that it optimizes for crisp and sharp lines. So if we then go OK, export, and we can then change the view of this file, export 2D graphic, sample house, export, oops, sorry, I need to give it another name, export. And if we jump onto the desktop here, it'll open this up in Photoshop. And there's our image there, and you can then start to, if you're working in Photoshop, readjust the image size. So in this instance, if we wanted to dial up, make sure that we've got a nice big image, but at the same time we can reduce the actual physical size. So that's why it's good to have a large number of pixels. It gives you the flexibility to rescale it quite easily. So I'm just going to close that off. I won't save that, and I'll close it through there, and we'll go back to here. So the other 2D image export, which is quite handy, is the Linework. Now if you're wanting to sort of create 2D graphics in, say, either a CAD platform or even in Adobe Illustrator, having the image as Linework is really quite handy, because it allows you to do a very rough model that's quick and easy to do, and then to add other elements in a more of a desktop publishing type of application. So I'm going to export a 2D graphic, and I'm going to save it as a DWG. Now Illustrator can open DWGs as well as probably every CAD package that's ubiquitous and commercially available. So I'm going to, before I just export it, I'm going to dial up this options there, because there's a few slightly irritating things that you need to make sure. So when you're doing the profile lines, make sure that you say none. This extension lines as well, it's usually set defaulted to on, and what it does is that at the intersection of each line, it lets the line overrun ever so slightly, and it really does create an annoying sort of busy image, so that should really always be turned off. It depends what CAD package you're using as to sort of what AutoCAD version you export as. I'm just going to export as 2013. I'm going to go OK, export, OK, and if I now open this up, it'll open up in MicroStation because that's my default DWG platform. And what you get is a very simple line drawing. Now it looks 3D, but in fact it's a 2D drawing because I can't navigate that through different views or anything like that. All it is simple line work. Now you do have to be cognizant, like if I select that line, it actually sections up the lines at every time it intersects another line, like here, it will break the line, which is slightly annoying. But you can then start to adjust the line weights and so on and improve the sort of quality of the drawing before bringing it into another package such as InDesign or PowerPoint or Word or something like that. So that's pretty much it for the export function. As a rule of thumb, I tend to keep my SketchUp models quite simple and add the sort of entourage or sort of people and cars and so on within sort of Photoshop or Illustrator and places like that, because I like to keep the drawings, the drawing part or the model part looking like a drawing rather than trying to render it up as a realistic looking house. But it really depends on your aims and ability to produce whatever communication out of this. Now you may, for scale, want to add in other aspects such as now you may want to add in other elements for scale such as trees and cars and so on. Now SketchUp is got a really big user base, and those users upload models into what's called the model warehouse that by and large are sort of free to use so long as they're attributed to the author. Now you can access the 3D warehouse through the window pull down, and that will open up an interface, and it's a very simple process to search. Now I'm going to put a car for scale, so I'm going to just search for a Mazda 3. Search, oops, where's the Mazda 3? There. And there you can see there's a whole bunch of 3D models available. So I'm just going to select that one there. You can have a look at it, check any sort of restrictions or anything like that. And what you want to do is look for ones with a fairly low polygon count. This is pretty high, but we'll see how we go. We can download that. Download into your SketchUp model. Yes. And then it drops in there, and then we can put it in there. Now sometimes you need to adjust the scale of these drop-in elements if there's a conflict with the units, because it's sort of like a buyer beware. Not all of these models are available on the warehouse are sort of checked or validated. But rescaling is pretty easy. That's the rescale tool there, and it just depends on how you pull the different corner points up. I'm going to just pull it on that corner. You can then, if you pull it in there, you sort of squash it. If you pull it through there, you can sort of stretch it that way. So you just have to make sure you're very careful how you're using the frame box for the resizing. I'm going to just go Control Z and bring that back to there. Now if I wanted to scale it a particular amount, say make it twice the size, I can dial in just the number 2 and press enter, and it will double the size of that. So usually it's issues like if it's a scale issue, you might find that this comes in at microscopic scale, in which case you need to increase it by 10 times, 100 times. But in this instance, it's actually been come through at more or less the correct scale. So I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully there's enough help and instruction in this brief series of videos that will allow you to develop models fairly quickly. And as you use the application more and more, you'll discover ways of improving your model, ways of adding different materials and so on, so you can get transparent materials for windows and so on. But it really is just a case of adding more and more blocks and complexity to get more and more sophisticated looking models. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.